Are you sick of wasting time on gluten-free recipes that turn out to be a total flop? Let's fix that. Inside this video, we're going to talk all about how to find new gluten-free recipes in new and unexpected places that you might not even be thinking about. And we're also going to dig into how to tell if a gluten-free recipe is worth trying and what to do before you even start to put it on your meal plan. Comment recipes below if you're finally ready to start building out your own gluten-free recipe library once and for all that you like and everybody else you live with does too. Finding new gluten-free recipes sounds like an easy task until you actually start to do it. You go to Pinterest, you go to Google, and you type in gluten-free recipes. There's hundreds of thousands of recipes that come up. They all look the same, and how do you know where to start? This is one of the most overwhelming things that I come in contact with people who are new to the gluten-free diet. They come to me and say, "Give me gluten-free recipes," when in reality, they really want to know how to start with a gluten-free recipe that doesn't suck, will actually taste good, and won't waste their time. I usually drive people away from Pinterest and Google when you're first starting on the gluten-free diet. Hear me out. There are so many different options on Pinterest and Google that it makes sense to go there and start. But with how overwhelming it gets, it can easily be something that you want to just shut down on and give up altogether on the gluten-free diet. Instead of starting with Pinterest and Google as your source for gluten-free recipes, let's start at a different spot. For starters, go look in your cookbook collection that you have gathering dust in a cabinet in your house. You know, that cabinet where you've just shoved all those cookbooks that you bought years and years ago and thought you would use. My favorite cookbooks are actually the old cookbooks. Cookbooks from like the 50s and 60s that were gifts that people would buy. They'd pay $10 to a local church or organization who would slap a logo on the front and sell it to make money. These old cookbooks are truly the best places to start for gluten-free recipes. And no, you're not going to find recipes labeled gluten-free in them. Here's what they do have though. They have simple recipes that are naturally gluten-free that you don't even have to think twice about. I am talking simple dinner recipes, breakfast recipes, lunch recipes, salads, side salads. And yes, these are the cookbooks that have the old recipes for things that have jello shaped and odd shapes, marshmallows and things that don't make sense to have marshmallows in, but they have so many recipes in them that are gluten-free. Looking at these cookbooks, you're going to quickly find that there's a lot of recipes that are naturally gluten-free and have just a few ingredients in them. That's the draw to these cookbooks. They were used as promotional items years and years and years ago, but so many people could make simple, easy dinners out of them just by flipping through the pages. If you aren't lucky enough to have one of these recipe books in your collection, go check out your local Goodwill. You might be surprised at what you find. After you get through all these promotional recipe books, look for cookbooks that might just have simple recipes in them. You might be surprised at what you might already have in your cabinet that is naturally gluten-free and easy to cook up on a quick weeknight. Once you get through your cookbook collection, if you've found a couple of recipes, add them to your list. The next thing I often suggest people do is going on social media and asking their family and friends for recipes. When you go on and post, people love to share recipes. That is one of the easiest ways to find new recipes, and by saying, "Hey, I'm looking for gluten-free recipes. Does anybody have ones they recommend?" You are going to be shocked at how many people come out of the woodwork to provide new recipes that you can try. You might be surprised at how many of them are naturally gluten-free, or how many of your friends and family already cook gluten-free in a way that you didn't expect. That's one of my favorite things to do when I'm in a slump for coming up with new ideas for meals. My favorite way to get new recipes from family and friends, though, is a Christmas card exchange. I stole this idea from my son's preschool teacher when she did it back in 2020. She reached out on Facebook and said, "Hey, I'm looking to do a recipe Christmas card exchange. Is anybody interested?" Here's how it works. You send me your Christmas card with 2 recipes in it, and I will send you my Christmas card with 2 recipes in it. Through this exchange, she had at least 20 people participate. That means she got 40 new recipes to try, and I was able to get 2 new recipes to add to my collection that I eventually was able to modify to be gluten-free. It might not be an easy way to get gluten-free recipes off the bat, but if you say, "Hey, I'm gluten-free and I want to do this Christmas card exchange, would you be interested? And I would love to try out some new recipes that you love that I can either modify to be gluten-free or that you already know are naturally gluten-free." It's a great, easy way to find new recipes, and it's fun to get even more cards than you would have expected in the first place. Once you get past asking family and friends, and once you get past going through old cookbooks, that's when I then move on to Pinterest and Google. I know it seems weird to save that as a third step in finding new recipes, but due to the overwhelm, it's so much easier to save that for later in your recipe journey. When you're using Pinterest and Google, it's important to use them strategically to find new recipes. Typing in gluten-free recipes is just going to be a waste of time. Typing in something like gluten-free taco seasoning, gluten-free spaghetti sauce, gluten-free baked lasagna is going to get you a whole lot further and help you find so many more recipes that make sense to what you need and help satisfy your craving for gluten-filled foods in a gluten-free version. Don't just dive in looking for vague recipes. Look for something specific. It'll be less overwhelming and you're going to feel a whole lot better about cooking dinner this week. The last source of places to look for new recipes are things like Reels on Facebook and Instagram or TikTok, or even YouTube Shorts. These are ones that just pop up on your feed at random and you save them to make later and never actually go back and make them. This is your reminder to go check your saved files and see what recipes are in there. Something to keep in mind with all recipes you find online is that they may or may not work. We all know what a Pinterest fail is, but it's becoming more and more common for all of these recipes to be popping up and being a total fail. Like this video if you've ever been in that situation and it makes you want to give up on cooking forever. Here's a few ways that you can use to debunk whether these recipes are going to be good or bad. Number one, look at the comments. If it's a social media post, look at the comments on the post and see what people are saying. Once you scroll past all of those who are just asking for the recipe, look for people who have made the recipe. Even if you want, jump in and say, hey, has anyone made this? What was your experience? It may or may not get responses, but it's super interesting to see what others do when they get a recipe. If you're getting it from a blog or from Pinterest, look at the comments. What are people saying in the comments? Are they asking a lot of questions? Are they saying this was delicious? Are they telling them it was too salty? What modifications do you think you need to make when you're looking at the comments from the recipe in a way that makes it work for you? A few red flags that we often see come up, especially when somebody's posting gluten-free recipes. A long list of ingredients. Yes, it's great to try a new recipe, but when somebody gives me a recipe as a busy mom that has 20 plus ingredients, it's a no in my book. That usually means it's going to take a lot of time. It may or may not work, and I may or may not be able to find all of the ingredients locally. That's great for a day when you have a lot of time and you're willing to take a risk, but when you're planning meals for the week, it's important to have recipes that you know are going to be quick, easy, and fit within your schedule. Another thing to look out for is vague instructions. Especially when you're cooking for gluten-free, instructions need to be really detailed. A lot of times ingredients need to be measured to the exact amount when you're cooking gluten-free, and it's important for them to be very detailed to explain not only how to cook the recipe, but how to make sure that all of your ingredients are gluten-free. The last thing to look out for on gluten-free recipes is what ingredients do you know and what ingredients are you looking at saying, what does this even mean? There's a lot of weird ingredients that I have found start to pop up since going gluten-free. I had no idea there were so many different types of flour out there. Seeing all these different flours and having to buy so many different flours for one recipe was something that scared me off from baking gluten-free for a really long time. Take a look at the recipes, see if you have all the ingredients or have access to all of the ingredients before you print it out and add it to your meal plan. This is going to be a key step in making sure that the recipes on your meal plan make sense for you and the schedule you have in the upcoming week. The last thing you need to do when you're looking for new recipes is to double check that all ingredients listed in the recipe are gluten-free. For example, if you're making stir fry and the recipe says to use soy sauce, that's a quick no in our book unless you have access to a gluten-free soy sauce. Little things like that are things that often go overlooked for somebody who's new to the gluten-free diet. Making sure that every ingredient on the list is the gluten-free version is going to be so important for your gluten-free diet. You don't want to make this recipe for dinner, quickly eat it on the go, and then feel absolutely miserable after. Not only is that doing you a disservice, but that's also making your meal plan a mess for the rest of the week. Inside of the Going Gluten-Free Meal Planning Workshop, we talk all about making recipe swaps and being able to swap out ingredients to make sure that they're all gluten-free. You can grab the workshop in the link below in the description. Here's the thing about trying new gluten-free recipes. You should not try them all in the same week. If you're new to the gluten-free diet, it can be easy to say, I'm gonna try all of the things this week. I can't wait to try all of these gluten-free foods. But just one fail or one recipe that takes longer than expected can throw off your day, throw off your week, and make it very discouraging from continuing to want to cook gluten-free. I often recommend that people who are new to the gluten-free diet pick 1 to 2 new recipes a week to try. The rest of the week, relying on recipes that they know and love that are naturally gluten-free, or in some people's case, relying on pre-made gluten-free meals until they know that cooking gluten-free is safe and they're able to cook successfully in their kitchen gluten-free for every night of the week. When you're sticking to 1 to 2 meals a week, then you don't have to risk failing every night for dinner and not having dinner to cook. Take a look at your meal plan for the week. How many of the recipes do you know, and how many of the recipes do you not know? In the last video, we talked about having go-to meals. If you haven't seen that video yet, make sure to go back and watch it because it's going to be key to making sure your gluten-free diet stays on track and your meal plan makes sense. In the next video, we're going to talk about how to adapt your old recipes to be gluten-free. Make sure to stay tuned and watch the video so you're ready to roll when you're cooking gluten-free in your kitchen.